Loguetown, also known as the Town of Beginnings and Endings. It is located near the entrance of the Grand Line, and anyone who wants to go to the Grand Line will choose to rest and resupply here. Therefore, this town is completely different from the places Luffy has arrived at in the past. It is very prosperous, with numerous ships docking at the port all year round. They may be merchants, pirates, or simply tourists. Its geographical location determines that it is inevitably a military stronghold. Therefore, the naval headquarters has stationed an excellent colonel here, known as White Hunter, Smoker, a Logia smoke fruit ability user. In the Haki Rare East Blue, his ability is invincible. With him guarding the town, the pirates in the East Blue are much weaker in terms of both quantity and strength compared to the other three seas. Once they show up, they are easily targeted accurately. The port. The Going Merry and the Thousand Sunny docked slowly. "I say, Luffy, should we dock at a more remote coast?" Usopp whispered from the neighboring Going Merry. "Does this idiot captain even know that he now has a bounty of 71 million? There is no higher bounty in the East Blue. Once discovered, we can expect a large wave of Marines attacking." "It's okay, only Zoro and I are wanted." Luffy shook his head. "Dock at a remote coast? There's no need for that. We also have to arrange for someone to guard the ship. Rarely do we come to a bustling town. After being at sea for so long, everyone should have a good time exploring. Luffy, I'm going to buy 2 swords. The ones I had before were cut by Hawkeye." Zoro greeted and was the first to jump off the ship. "Don't get lost, Johnny, Yosaku, you guys follow him." "Yes, Captain Luffy. Leave it to us." The two immediately followed. They knew Zoro's sense of direction too well. They almost lost the Thousand Sunny at sea before, almost being led into a ditch by him. Who would get lost? Zoro turned around and complained, exuding confidence. Luffy laughed. "Do you have enough money?" When they were in Orange Town, Zoro received 1/3 of Buggy's treasure, about 3 to 4 million berries. Therefore, he just waved his hand and left without looking back. He's got money. After Zoro and the others left, Sanji came out with Krieg and Jhin. "Luffy, I'm going to the Marine base to exchange bounties." "Thank you, Sanji. You're the most suitable for this job." Luffy nodded. He and Zoro are wanted, obviously Usopp is not suitable. After thinking about it, Sanji is the most reliable among the men. Afterwards, Nami and the other 2 women went shopping together. Girls have more things to buy, the latest clothes, shoes, beautiful jewelry, even perfume, cosmetics, and so on. To this, Luffy could only say that no matter which world it is, women still love shopping. He's not interested in joining in the fun. Even if he is the captain, he will end up being a pack mule. There shouldn't be any male comrades who enjoy accompanying women shopping. In the end, only 2 people were left. Luffy looked at Usopp. "Let's go, it's just the 2 of us." "No, I'm fine alone. Goodbye, Luffy." Usopp disappeared from Luffy's sight like a gust of wind. Have I stayed on the Thousand Sunny for too long? Have I spent too little time on the Going Merry, causing a rift between us? Luffy fell into deep thought and had to ponder this question. On the other side, Usopp ran wildly, thinking proudly, "A bounty of 71 million, I'll be done for if I go with you. I'll definitely be targeted. Luffy, I won't hold you back. Ahahaha, I'm so smart." Colonel Smoker, the pirate ship of the Straw Hat Pirates, has been spotted at the port. Marine base, a smoke-filled office. Upon hearing the report from his subordinates, Smoker immediately looked at the wanted poster posted on the side. A bounty of 71 million, they came so quickly? Yes. Should we contact Vice Admiral Garp? No, don't contact him yet, I'll go see them myself. Smoker stood up, put on his coat, and walked out of the office. Monkey D. Luffy, capture only. Monkey D. Garp, the marine hero. Even a fool could guess his identity. No one is a fool. This time, it's not about capturing the other party, just want to see, how capable are the 71 million pirates that emerged in the East Blue. Oh, by the way, where is Tashigi? Tashigi, the sergeant major, is following Vice Admiral Garp. Upon hearing this, Smoker didn't say anything else and left the base directly. Loguetown's famous landmark, the execution platform of the Pirate King. Luffy flew over the tall buildings and arrived here alone. He stood at the top of a tall building surrounding the execution square, looking at the execution platform in the center of the square. The place where Pirate King Roger died. He didn't want to sit on it and take a look, he just came to see it out of sentimentality. Just like a popular check-in spot in a past life. However, after actually seeing it, There was nothing special about it. It's not interesting, let's go. Huh. Suddenly, Luffy made a soft sound and looked towards the square. Why is he here? A hint of confusion flashed through his mind. People were coming and going in the square, bustling with activity. But a tall, broad-chested, muscular old man jumped onto the execution platform in one leap. He was wearing a justice cloak on his back. Vice Admiral Garp. Under the execution platform, a girl wearing glasses anxiously shouted, "Please don't cause trouble, that place is a special facility of the world government." Ha ha ha, don't worry, little Toshigi. Garp laughed heartily and sat down cross-legged. This scene immediately caught the attention of the people in the square, and they all looked over. Is that marine hero, Garp? It's Vice Admiral Garp. Vice Admiral Garp came to this city? The crowd was stunned for a while, then erupted into loud cheers. Every person's face was filled with genuine smiles. Toshigi was shocked to hear this. This was the living legend? Such immense popularity. Garp grinned. Quiet down, and stay a bit further away if possible. With that, he took a deep breath and shouted, "Pirate Luffy, I know you're here, come out." Upon hearing this, the square became restless. Toshigi was greatly surprised. Pirate Luffy. The pirate who had a bounty poster issued yesterday. On the top floor of the tall building, Luffy was momentarily speechless. He knew that with Garp's observation haki, he probably noticed him as soon as he landed. He was just curious why Garp was here. Do you still want to hide? You brat, I knew you were up to something when you raised your butt. If you want to go to the Grand Line, you'll definitely come here. If you come here, you'll definitely come to this square. Do I have to punch you out? Garp blew air towards his fist, full of threat. Luffy's mouth twitched, and he had no choice but to jump down from the tall building. When the people around saw him, their expressions changed. Even though it had only been a day, the pirate with the highest bounty in the East Blue was already well known. It really is Straw Hat Luffy. Toshigi immediately drew her sword from her waist and said nervously, "Vice Admiral Garp, please step back, I will stop him." Garp. Luffy. Are there really fools like this in the world? Ha 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 ha. Luffy couldn't help but laugh, looked up at Garp on the execution platform, and his tone became serious. "Grandpa, are you trying to stop me? Grandpa?" Toshigi was instantly stunned. "Grandfather, are you trying to stop me?" Upon hearing Luffy's address, the crowd in the square was stunned one by one. What's going on? He suddenly appeared yesterday and became the highest bounty pirate in East Blue. Is he Vice Admiral Garp's grandson? Toshigi stood still, her mouth slightly open, with a dumbfounded expression on her face. The scene remained silent for more than 10 seconds, and finally erupted into a burst of exclamations. "Hey!" Garp laughed loudly from above, looking down. "Ha ha ha, stop! If you want to enter the Grand Line, you have to pass my test first, you foolish grandson. It's been a while since we last met, have you forgotten your grandfather's iron fist of love?" He jumped down from the execution platform, grinning and waving his fist the size of a cooking pot. Seeing this, Luffy didn't hesitate and immediately launched a counterattack. "I'm not the same person I used to be, grandfather." Bang! The two fists, both imbued with haki, clashed and immediately determined the outcome. Amidst the booming sound of the clash, Garp's expression froze for a moment, and then he was pushed back by Luffy's punch, flying and crashing into the execution platform. Vice Admiral Garp. Toshigi was shocked and pale. This was a marine hero, a vice admiral at marine headquarters. He actually lost in a test of strength? Indeed, he's an old man. That's why she needs to protect him. Toshigi, it's your time to step forward now. To attack your own grandfather with such force. Don't you care about family ties? You despicable pirate. Toshigi gripped her sword, Wado Ichimonji, and assumed a fighting stance facing Luffy. Despite this, her body was trembling slightly. Luffy. He was rendered speechless by this woman's innocence. "Get away from here quickly if you don't want to get involved," he calmly reminded her. As soon as he finished speaking, with a loud bang, Garp stood up and walked towards them with a smile on his face. "You've grown, Luffy. When did you awaken haki?" He used the term, awaken. This was only natural. Generally, even if one has outstanding talent, it takes at least a year to practice and master Busashoku haki. But awakening is different. Perhaps at a certain moment, one suddenly comprehends it, and then with targeted training, they can quickly master it, greatly reducing the time needed. The last time he saw his grandson was less than a year ago. "Ha ha, grandfather, you can't stop me," Luffy laughed. Ha ha ha, you foolish grandson, let me teach you about hockey. Garp also laughed, but before he finished speaking, his figure disappeared in an instant. The way to use it, when the voice resounded again, Garp was already close. Fast, too fast. Even though Luffy activated Kenbunshoku Haki and locked onto Garp, he almost didn't react in time. From the side? Left side? The body's reaction is faster than the brain. There's no time to think, or rather, the answer to the thought hasn't had a chance to be fed back to the body, and the body acts reflexively. As Luffy took a half step back with his left foot, his left calf seemed to be a pressure pump, instantly entering second gear. His fist struck again. Boom! Unlike before, this clash of Busashoku Haki created black lightning in the air. As earth coiling unleashed a hurricane, in an instant, the people within several tens of meters were blown away by the powerful impact. What is this? Tashigi widened her beautiful eyes, attempting to raise her hand to defend herself, but her feet couldn't grip the ground. With an "ah," she was swept away. Two fists came to a stalemate, and the shockwaves continued to ripple in all directions. The ground beneath Luffy's feet suddenly collapsed in a circle, and cracks spread where he stood. Level 2? Luffy thought. The armament haki used by Garp should only be at level 2, or maybe just 1.5, just slightly stronger than him. Thinking of this, Luffy's gaze sharpened, and his conqueror's haki suddenly erupted. Garp immediately felt the power transmitted through his fist, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. Conqueror's haki? He has already awakened Conqueror's haki? Feeling both surprised and delighted, Luffy's power surpassed his at this moment, and he punched him in the face. Garp lost his stable balance and was sent flying, crashing straight into the high-rise wall on the edge of the square. With a loud bang, the wall shattered, but the next second, Garp was completely fine, standing up from the hole in the wall with a grin on his face. Armament haki, conquerors, have you even mastered observation haki? Without observation haki, one wouldn't be able to react to the previous punch. Armament haki and observation haki can be put aside for now. This is a power that can be obtained through desperate training. But Conqueror's haki is a qualification possessed by only one in millions of people, a proof of being a conqueror. Anyone who wants to reach the pinnacle of strength in this world must possess this power. Garp's smile became even brighter. Thinking of his revolutionary son and looking at his grandson who wants to become the Pirate King, he laughed while holding his forehead, tears almost coming out. Ha ha ha. I really can't do anything with you guys. Grandfather, father, and grandson, the third generation, a family of 3 conquerors. Can the will of a conqueror be changed? No, it cannot. You can defeat the opponent, you can kill the opponent, but a conqueror will not submit. Luffy remained calm. Grandpa, you can't stop me. The same words, but at this moment, they conveyed completely different meanings. Yes, Grandpa, you can't stop me. Garp sighed, and then a wave of Conqueror's haki surged towards Luffy overwhelmingly. But, first Marine Vice Admiral Garp. Pirate Luffy, if you want to enter the Grand Line, you must first ask my fist. Are you coming again? Does this old man ever stop? You just need to test me a little to know my strength, and you really want to capture me? Luffy couldn't bear it and released his Conqueror's haki from within. Boom. The 2 Conquerors' haki clashed in midair, as if 2 domains were squeezing each other, filling the entire square. In an instant, a storm raged. Even though the people had already escaped to the outside of the square, the leakage of power from this clash of Conquerors' haki caused countless people to roll their eyes and faint. The next moment, both of them launched their attacks at the same time. In midair, their fists clashed once again. Boom, rumble, rumble. Like thunder on a clear day, the sound echoed through the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. The booming sound coming from the execution square, a famous attraction in Loguetown, has been continuous. This sound has almost spread throughout the entire town, but no one can get close. The impact generated by the collision of 2 Conquerors' haki is so powerful that anyone who gets close to a certain distance will be swept into it. In front of the marine base gate, is it a festival today? It's been booming. Sanji dragged the unconscious Krieg and the 2 of them to this place. He looked up in the direction of the execution square, and the huge commotion transmitted here was reduced to a thunderous roar. Halt! The marine guard in front of the base gate immediately shouted. I'm here to exchange bounties. Are these 2 pirates worth any money? Sanji withdrew his gaze and said calmly. Only then did the guard carefully look at them, and when he saw Krieg's face, he was shocked. Admiral Krieg of the Krieg Pirates, and Fishman Arlong. These are all notorious pirates in East Blue, and they were actually captured, alive. Are you a bounty hunter? The soldier changed his attitude, his tone became more respectful. Please wait, I will immediately report to Colonel Smoker. He turned and entered the base. He left in a hurry, and returned in a hurry. Colonel Smoker is not here. Please follow me, I will take you to see Captain. Sanji followed swaggeringly. After meeting a marine captain, he successfully received the bounty. A total of 29 million berries, packed in a suitcase. Before leaving, Sanji curiously asks, is there a festival today? Just an ordinary day. Then what's the booming sound outside? We have sent people to investigate. Colonel Smoker is guarding this city, so you can rest assured that no pirate can cause trouble here. Your money is safe, the captain said confidently. After hesitating for a moment, he added, however, if you see members of the underworld, please try to avoid conflicts. If there are any problems, you can contact our marines. The underworld? Sanji shook his head and left the marine base with a large sum of money. Next, let's go buy some ingredients. The food on the ship is too monotonous. Sanji started to stroll around with great enthusiasm. Zoro walked out of the sell a sword weapon shop and touched the 3 swords on his waist, feeling satisfied. It's reassuring to have 3 swords. Surprisingly, the boss is a good person. He actually gave me 2 swords for free, he said with a smile. Sell a sword is the boss's name. Johnny covered his face and said, Zoro, did you forget about your bounty? Your wanted poster was posted in the shop just now. Joseph nodded repeatedly, yeah. At first the boss just wanted to give you 2 random swords, but you picked the Demon Blade 3rd generation Kitetsu at a glance, so he changed his mind and gave you the shop's treasure, the named sword, Yuki Hashiri. You guys really don't understand anything. Giving me 2 swords means he's a good person. Zoro grinned. Next, let's find a tavern to drink. Oh, drinking. Johnny and Joseph raised their hands in agreement. You guys won't have a chance to drink. Suddenly, a deep voice came from behind the 3. Zoro paused and turned around. There was a silver-haired man with 3 cigars in his mouth, appearing bare-chested in front of the 3. Marine. Colonel Smoker. Johnny was startled and looked surprised. Zoro, this guy is the marine officer in charge here. Joseph immediately drew his weapon. Zoro frowned slightly. Colonel Smoker, is there something you need? A stupid question. Marines catch pirates, do we need a reason? Smoker's arms began to turn into smoke, and thick fog quickly enveloped the 3 of them. Where is your captain, Straw Hat Luffy? I can't tell you that. Zoro chuckled lightly and drew the 3rd generation Kitetsu. Johnny, Joseph, step back. It looked like a fight was about to break out. Boom. A distant rumble came. Smoker's face changed. That direction. The execution platform. Is it? Over there. In an instant, thick smoke billowed, and he abandoned Zoro and flew towards the execution square. Is it Luffy? Zoro also paused for a moment, then immediately chased after him. Wait, Marine Colonel, your opponent is me. Wrong. Zoro, the direction is wrong. Joseph shouted anxiously and caught up with their footsteps. Execution square. The battle between Luffy and Garp continued. The vast arena was now empty, with no one standing. Tashigi hid in a distant corner, watching the extraordinary battle between the 2 without blinking. Boom. Suddenly, there was another clash of Conqueror's Haki, and a huge wave of energy swept in all directions. Tashigi immediately grabbed onto the wall to stabilize herself and prevent herself from being blown away. The strong wind made it almost impossible for her to open her eyes. Monsters. Both the grandfather and grandson are like monsters in terms of strength. She gritted her teeth and thought, Vice Admiral Garp, can he win? In this situation, ordinary people wouldn't even dare to get close, let alone intervene. Therefore, she did not contact the base to request support. In the alley next to her hiding place, there was another man. Wearing a nose ring, with a demonic face and a black wing-shaped half-circle tattoo on his chest, he was also shocked as he watched the battle between the 2. His name was Bartolomeo, the leader of over 150 towns in the underworld. But at this moment, he had none of the demeanor of a leader, instead looking at the 2 on the battlefield with a childlike admiration. More accurately, he was looking at Luffy. Ha, Luffy, how long can you hold on with your haki? It's already weakening. Amidst his laughter, Garp punched Luffy, sending him flying. Boom. Luffy landed on the ground and patted his pants as he stood up. He couldn't even withstand the 2nd level combined with Conqueror's Haki. Garp had perfect control over his power, just slightly stronger than him. Rather than trying to capture him, it seemed more like he was teaching him how to use haki. Grandpa, I have my reasons, it's okay to tell you now. Luffy's observation haki reached its limit, and nearby, there were only 2 remaining conscious auras. After all, there's no one else who can see it. Please help me keep it a secret afterwards. 5th gear, in an instant, a silver figure appeared. Flames surrounded his body, and his hair resembled burning white flames, exuding a sense of mystery in the sunlight. What is this? Garp's face was filled with astonishment. Luffy's devil fruit is called the rubber fruit, of course he knew that. The scene before him was the awakened state of a devil fruit user, which he could also understand. But is this how the rubber fruit awakens? Grandpa, I will defeat you here, and then enter the Grand Line. As soon as he finished speaking, Luffy slightly bent his knees and squatted down to gather power. In the next moment, he disappeared from his original position. The ground seemed like a trampoline, launching him forward. Whoosh! In a lightning-fast movement, Garp maintained a stunned expression without evading or dodging, and took a solid punch to the abdomen. This punch went through his body. With a muffled groan, Garp was sent flying, directly breaking the execution platform of the Pirate King, and then piercing through one high-rise building after another. In an instant, he disappeared from the square. This scene left a deep impression on Bartolomeo and Tashigi. The silver figure, like the god of the sun, the silver figure shone brightly under the sun. Tashigi couldn't believe it and covered her mouth, not daring to breathe. Luffy exhaled and activated the power of the sunlight fruit, quickly recovering his depleted strength. His gaze slightly shifted and locked onto Tashigi, who was hiding in a small alley outside the square. She had been discovered. Tashigi's body immediately froze in place. Such oppressive force. Just being locked onto by his gaze rendered her unable to move. The punch I just threw, even my grandfather probably wouldn't have fared well. Glasses girl, tell him to keep it a secret, Luffy said calmly. He bent down to pick up his straw hat, dusted off the dirt, and put it back on his head. Then, he walked straight towards the direction of the harbor. It was only when he left the square that Tashigi's tense body finally relaxed. She covered her chest and gasped for breath, her suspended heart gradually calming down. What glasses girl? She bit her lip, feeling a sense of humiliation. To be scared motionless by just a look from the other party. Tashigi, oh Tashigi, how can you uphold your own justice like this? But indeed, he was too powerful, especially when he turned silver. What was that? Why would someone who possesses Vice Admiral Garp's power go so far as to become a pirate? No one answered her inner doubts. Vice Admiral Garp. She snapped back to her senses and immediately ran towards the direction where Garp was sent flying. Inside a building hundreds of meters away from the square, Garp lay on the ground without getting up. A trace of blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. After wiping it away with his hand, he couldn't help but grin and mutter to himself, that punch hurt a bit. What happened in the past year? Luffy's strength underwent a tremendous change, awakening Conqueror's haki, and even awakening his devil fruit. But after not seeing each other for nearly a year, he couldn't imagine what his grandson had experienced to undergo such a huge transformation. Vice Admiral Garp, Tashigi's voice came. Little Tashigi? Garp patted his butt and got up, rubbing the back of his head with a laugh. Ha ha ha, it's really unacceptable to be defeated by my own grandson. Are you okay? Tashigi asked with concern. He didn't seem to be in any trouble. Really, what's the deal with you two, grandfather and grandson? Are your bodies made of steel? Where's Luffy? Straw Hat Luffy left, and I didn't dare to stop him, I'm sorry. He asked me to give you a message. Tashigi's mood was complicated. Why did she have to help a pirate deliver a message, and he even called her Glasses Girl? But in the end, she still honestly said, keep it a secret. So the problem lies with the rubber fruit? Garp pondered in his heart. It seemed necessary to investigate what exactly the rubber fruit that red-haired gave Luffy was. The punch he took earlier caused his body to become rubberized at the point of impact, and the fist even went through his chest. This is not an ordinary fruit awakening. Is that so? Then I'll leave it to you, little Tashigi. What you saw just now must be kept a secret. Keep it a secret. I understand. Tashigi was stunned for a moment, then nodded earnestly. Although she didn't know the reason behind it, if Vice Admiral Garp said so, then she would keep it a secret. Good child, haha. Garp laughed satisfactorily, feeling quite good. The problem is, there's still one person. Immediately, he walked out, and the color of observation instantly enveloped the entire city. Luffy walked through the countless unconscious crowd and headed towards the harbor. Shouts came from behind. Just wait a moment, Straw Hat Luffy. No, Luffy-sama. A green-haired man with an accent quickly caught up. Excitedly, he ran ahead of Luffy. What's up? Luffy looked at the man. It was Bartolomeo. Because of his distinctive appearance and hair color, Luffy had noticed him early on. In the original work, this guy was a die-hard fan of the Straw Hat crew. He. I saw everything just now. You were amazing. Bartolomeo seemed a little embarrassed, like he had just met his idol. His face blushed with a hint of shyness, and his eyes were filled with admiration. Then please keep it a secret, Luffy smiled. Yes. I have a lifelong request, Luffy-sama. Please accept me as your subordinate. With a thud, Bartolomeo got down on all fours and said fervently, please let me be your little brother. Hearing this, Luffy raised an eyebrow. Do you want to go to the Grand Line with me? Yes. Although I don't have any special talents, after watching your previous battles, especially that silver-white figure, my blood is boiling. Luffy-sama, you are the man who will become the Pirate King. Afraid of being rejected, Bartolomeo's emotions became even more excited. Luffy chuckled lightly and continued walking towards the port. Bartolomeo stood still, his passionate heart suddenly chilled. But the next moment, a voice from behind sounded like a heavenly hymn. Follow me. Yes, Luffy-sama. Bartolomeo was overjoyed, got up in a dog-like stance, and couldn't contain his excitement. Suddenly, a white smoke appeared in the distance. The pale smoke flew rapidly like a long snake. Smoker saw the tragic situation. Countless people lay on the streets with their eyes rolled back, and the only two standing were casually walking through the corpses. Straw Hat Luffy. Smoker was furious, his killing intent undisguised. Luffy Nissan. From behind, Zoro ran over quickly, followed by Johnny and Yosaku. Hey, Zoro, get ready to set sail. My grandpa is here, Luffy greeted. None of you can leave. Veins popped on Smoker's forehead. If I let you go after killing so many people, what right do I have to wear the marine uniform? White wind. In an instant, his whole body turned into white smoke, surrounding Luffy like a cage. Luffy-sama, please go ahead. Leave this to me. I've dealt with this guy before. Bartolomeo quickly made a strange hand gesture, crossing his middle finger with his index finger. Barrier. Luffy stopped him with a raised hand and smiled. A Logia user as weak as you is rare. As soon as he finished speaking, Luffy instantly captured Smoker in his observation haki. Luffy leapt up and threw a punch towards the thick smoke. Go back and train for another 2 years, boom. With armament haki enveloping his attack, Luffy directly knocked Smoker's true body out. Wow. Smoker spat out stomach acid, his eyes bulging. He was knocked down hard and lay on the ground. Cough. Cough. Smoker coughed on the ground, as if all his strength had been drained. He stared at Luffy and said, You bastard. How did you hit me? Logia users have fluid bodies and are immune to physical attacks. He hadn't been injured or felt pain for many years. Go ask your teacher. Luffy wasn't interested in dealing with him and waved his hand to signal everyone, let's go, it's time to go to the Grand Line. Smoker, who was knocked down to the ground, was powerless to stop the Straw Hat crew from leaving, and could only watch helplessly. The feeling of powerlessness made him tighten his fist. After a while, a captain led a large number of Marines to arrive. Smoker-sama. Don't mind me. Chase after them. We must not let the Straw Hat crew escape. Smoker gritted his teeth and gave the order. Indeed, pirates are pirates. Even if they are descendants of heroes, once they set sail, they will become indiscriminate killers. He hadn't finished speaking. A medical soldier who was checking the wounded shouted loudly, Captain, the civilians are fine, they just fainted. Smoker. The captain. The massive mobilization of the Marines and the commotion at the execution square finally made the people of Loguetown, who had enjoyed several years of peace, realize that something was wrong. The Straw Hat crew has landed. Run away. If you don't want to die, run. That's the highest bounty and the most vicious pirate in East Blue. What about the Marines? Colonel Smoker. Panic spread. Countless people started to flee. The once lively streets were now even livelier. Because everyone was running, Luffy walked silently on the street, and whenever the people saw them, they screamed and ran away as if they had seen a ghost. The treatment was completely different from the places they had been to before. Am I that scary? He hadn't done anything bad, on the contrary, he had done quite a few good things. Shouldn't that be considered a good thing? How did the news about him spread? Bartolomeo, the #1 fanboy, immediately answered, Luffy-sama, you are as terrifying as a ghost, he. Be afraid, and then run away in a panic. If you can't speak, then don't speak. Luffy rolled his eyes. I wanted to ask just now, who is this guy? Zoro glanced at him and asked. Nice to meet you, Zoro-sama of the Straw Hat Crew, right? I saw your bounty poster yesterday. Bartolomeo walked up to Zoro, bowed 90 degrees, and said, I am Luffy-sama's loyal subordinate, the rookie Bartolomeo. Please take care of me. Zoro looked disgusted and said, get out of the way. Yes, Zoro-sama. Bartolomeo, who was excited, still had a lot of energy. Just then, the sound of running in formation came from behind. The Marines are here. Johnny turned his head and was startled. Luffy. Garp came running, followed by many Marines, each armed with guns, and even rocket launchers, probably devices for launching seastone weapons. Run. Luffy laughed and started running first. On the way to the port, when they were near the port, they happened to see Nami returning from shopping with bags in her hands. Luffy, she shouted, I heard a loud noise earlier and knew it must be you guys exposed. Get on the ship, Nami. My grandpa is chasing after us. Huh? Grandpa? Nami became nervous instantly and looked behind Luffy. Sure enough, she saw a Marine officer wearing a cape, grinning and chasing after Luffy and the others. That's Luffy's grandpa? Should I say hello? Before she could figure it out, Luffy reached out and pulled her, bringing the 3 women onto the Sunny. The rest of the crew quickly climbed aboard the Mary. You guys are back? Sanji was the first to return, and when he looked up and saw the Marines in the distance, he smiled. I knew it, the booming sound was definitely not right. After a pause, Bartolomeo was seen. Who is this guy? No time to introduce everyone. Luffy immediately ordered, set sail. Is everyone here? Oh, everyone is here, Lord Luffy. The crew quickly raised the anchor and lowered the sails. The 2 ships slowly sailed towards the open sea. On the shore, the Marines stopped at the port, and Garp grinned. Do you think you can escape like this? Bring me the cannonballs? He picked up a solid cannonball and threw it barehanded. With a swoosh, the cannonball flew towards the Sunny, with even greater power than a warship's main cannon. Boom! Luffy swung his arm and directly smashed it. It's about time to give up, Grandpa. Ha ha ha. Once you enter the Grand Line, the naval headquarters will be after you, Pirate Luffy. It's not too late to turn back now. Garp laughed. Upon closer inspection, this brat was accompanied by 3 women. Has he finally matured? He would be happier if he had made him a great-grandfather earlier, rather than becoming the Pirate King. Goodbye, Grandpa. See you in the Grand Line. Luffy waved his hand, with a smile on his face. Vice Admiral Garp. Tashigi spoke softly. He escaped. Garp didn't throw any more cannonballs and laughed with his arms crossed. He's such a headache of a grandson. Now I'll be scolded by Sengoku when I go back. Ha ha ha. His laughter was full of pride. On the deck of the Merry Go. The crew suddenly looked at each other in confusion. Did we forget something? What could we have forgotten? Oh, indeed, we forgot something. We're missing someone, Zoro. That's right, where's Usopp? The faces of several people turned dark. Just then, at the port of Loguetown, a long-nosed man carrying a huge package was chasing and shouting. Luffy, did you forget? I'm still not on the ship, let me on quickly. On the Sunny. Kaya covered her mouth in surprise. It's Mr. Usopp. Luffy raised an eyebrow fiercely. How did they forget someone? He immediately reached out, extending his arm to grab Usopp by the collar and pulled him back. Usopp, who was back on the ship, pinched Luffy's neck and cried with tears streaming down his face. Luffy, you bastard. Did you intentionally forget about me because I didn't come with you before? You devil, demon. No, it was an accident, it was all accidental. Luffy laughed heartily. Kaya tried to calm the situation. Stop choking him, Mr. Usopp. Luffy is going to die. Nami ignored the commotion and took out the sea chart of the Grand Line. From now on, listen to my commands. Full left rudder, heading at 7 o'clock, full sail ahead. Amidst the laughter, noise, and commotion, the 2 ships sailed towards the Grand Line. There is still some distance to go from Loguetown to the entrance of the Grand Line. The closer we get to Reverse Mountain, the worse the weather becomes. It was sunny not long ago, but as we get closer, the climate gradually becomes strange, with dark clouds looming. The Sunny Go is leading the way, sailing ahead. In the field of vision, A wall of red earth stretches across the ocean, with no end in sight. So that's the red line? It's a sight that people in Kokuyashi village can never see in their lifetime, Nami said with emotion. The ocean currents are not right. Nami leaned over the ship's rail, observing the increasingly rapid ocean currents, muttering, at this rate, we will collide with the red line. What's wrong? Is the position on the sea chart incorrect? Driven by strong winds and ocean currents, the Sunny Go is like a speeding train that can't stop. Once it collides with the red line. Don't worry, Nami. Believe in yourself. Luffy said softly as he walked to the bow of the ship, gazing at the distant redness. Although they can already see the red line, there is still a long way to go in reality. He took the opportunity to tally up their gains during this period. You have sailed in East Blue for 6 days, rewarded with 60 adventure coins. You have arrived at the new island, Loguetown, rewarded with 100 adventure coins. Recruited crew member Bartolomeo, a qualified ability user, rewarded with 300 adventure coins. Including the previous stock of 1755, adventure coins, 2,215. Easy, really easy. The goal of 2,200 adventure coins was easily achieved. Equivalent to 11 hockey fruits, it can raise his conqueror's hockey to the advanced stage of level 5. The only problem is that hockey fruits don't appear every day. Let's see what good things are available today. Today's luck is good. After many days, another hockey fruit appears. Bought on the spot, minus 200 adventure coins, in addition. 6 style fruit, boxed. A gift box that combines 6 fruits, stronger than 6 individual ones. Selling price, 1,000 adventure coins, today's special offer, 500 adventure coins. Why does a box of 6 style fruits cost 1,000 when 6 individual ones cost 100 each? Is the strength in the price of the box? Luffy silently complained in his heart. Of course, this is just a small complaint. In reality, it is indeed better than buying them individually. After all, it's not guaranteed to get 6 fruits in a month. It's like buying time at a high price. The earlier you buy, the earlier you can enjoy. Mainly because it's on sale, buying 6 for 500 is still a profit. Why isn't it a hockey gift box? Do they think I don't have enough money? He complained again in his heart, but still bought it, deducting another 500 adventure coins. After a rough scan of the remaining goods, they were good, but until he achieves financial freedom with adventure coins, he doesn't have any extra money to spend. A flash of white light, a black fruit and a box of 6 style fruits appeared in his hand. After eating the hockey fruit, his armament hockey level 1 immediately advanced to level 2. It was another day of reaping the rewards of hard training. Satisfied, Luffy thought to himself and turned to shout. Nami. What's wrong? She walked over, asking with confusion. Here, this is for you. Taking the gift box, Nami blinked happily. She felt happy receiving a gift from Luffy, no matter what it was. Perhaps it was a gift bought in Loguetown. What is this? She asked with a smile, can I open it? Go ahead. The wooden gift box was exquisitely crafted. Nami opened it and saw 6 neatly arranged fruits in 2 rows. Her eyes widened, and she couldn't help but cover her mouth, almost screaming. There were so many of these precious fruits. Luffy, where did you get these? Can you really give me all of them? She asked incredulously. That question caught him off guard. Luffy thought for a moment and jokingly said. My grandpa gave them to me. He heard that my wife is too weak, so he gave me these. How about that, are you happy? Very happy. Nami's smile was radiant, not because of the 6 fruits, but because of being called a wife. Her father-in-law was really great, she should have greeted him properly before. She didn't even care that her sister Nojiko and Miss Kaya were on the deck. Excitedly, she hugged Luffy and gave him a passionate kiss. Luffy, of course, wouldn't refuse the advances of a beautiful woman. Nojiko turned her head and happened to see this scene. She immediately smiled and said, You're really bold, Nami. Miss Nami. Kaya shyly covered her eyes, but she opened her fingers slightly and secretly watched. Half an hour later. The red line was within reach, and the inverted mountain was visible to the naked eye. Only when you get closer can you appreciate the towering and majestic red line. The red wall started from sea level and extended upwards, disappearing into the clouds, with no end in sight. Luffy stood at the bow of the ship, quietly feeling its ancient aura. The overwhelming sense of oppression that came rushing towards him was a sight he had never seen in his previous life. At the same time, it was also a wall of size, separating countless people from the 4 seas. Not only Luffy, but also the 3 women on the ship, and even the people on the merry-go following behind the Sunny, were amazed by the scene before them. Look. That's the waterway. The seawater is flowing upstream. Suddenly, Nami noticed the reverse current at the foot of the inverted mountain. Under the powerful impact of the current, the seawater climbed up the mountain, all the way up, towards an unknown end. I understand now, so this is how we go up, Nami exclaimed in surprise. When we reach the highest point, the sea currents from the four seas converge and then flow back down, leading to the direction of the Grand Line. It's truly a spectacle. Luffy smiled and shouted, "The Grand Line is ahead. What are your dreams, everyone?" The male crew members on the merry-go heard his question. Zoro's gaze slightly hardened as he responded, "To become the world's greatest swordsman. To become a brave warrior of the sea, for the all blue, the sea of miracles. To follow Captain Luffy and witness the birth of the Pirate King. To repay the debt of saving my life, to participate in great adventures." Listening to the shouts of the men, the three women on the Sunny exchanged glances and smiled together. To map the world, to fly freely like birds. To leave the past behind and embrace the future. Driven by the current, the Sunny was the first to charge up the reverse waterway of the inverted mountain. Luffy raised his fist with a smile. To conquer the Grand Line. Yahoo! The Sunny climbed up the mountain sea current, and Nami shouted excitedly. Luffy, on the other hand, remained calm. He immediately retracted the sails to prevent the ship from deviating from the sea current under the force of the wind and colliding with the mountains on both sides. At the same time, he shouted, "Zoro, retract the sails, adjust the direction, aim for the mountain sea current, and don't collide with the red line." Understood. Usopp's voice responded. In the midst of the chaos, the Merry also narrowly entered the reverse mountain canal. It was only at this moment that everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Sanji lit a cigarette and said, "I've heard that half of the ships that go from East Blue to the Grand Line end up buried at sea, probably because they collide with the red line. It's really terrifying. Do we have to eliminate half of the ships at the entrance? What kind of devil sea is the Grand Line?" Usopp covered his head with both hands. He, if we had collided just now, the ship would have been shattered. Say something auspicious, rookie. Sorry, Captain Johnny. Ha 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 ha. It's good that you know. Appreciating the scenery along the way, everyone gathered at the bow of the ship. The mountain sea current was almost at a 45-degree angle upwards. The Sunny, Luffy observed the reverse mountain left and right. Is this really naturally formed? Of course not, it must be a man-made canal. The people in the past were truly great. Nami sighed. The scale of this project was unimaginable, and she wondered how many people had to sacrifice their lives to complete this feat. With the 5 canals of Reverse Mountain, the 4 seas and the Grand Line could be connected. Luffy shook his head. He wasn't talking about the canals, but about this Reverse Mountain. The Grand Line and the Red Line intersect at these 2 points, one being Reverse Mountain and the other being the Holy Land of the World Nobles, Mariajoy, where the world government is located. This question obviously had no answer. Before long, the ships passed through the clouds. The 4 mountain sea currents from the east, south, west, and north finally converged at the peak and merged into a downstream sea current leading to the Grand Line. Luffy remembered that at the end of the downstream sea current, there was a giant whale, over 400 meters long, which looked like a mountain from a distance. It was unknown whether they were lucky or not, but the whale, Laboon, did not block the entrance. The Sunny and the Merry successfully entered the Grand Line. On both sides of the exit, there were 2 lighthouses. The crew docked the ship on the left bank, disembarked one after another, and below the lighthouse, they saw an old man. The old man had a hairstyle like a saffron flower, wearing a pair of round glasses, and dressed in colorful and cool clothes. He sat under a parasol, crossed his legs, and cast a sharp gaze. "Where are you from?" His expression was serious, exuding an aura of, "I am a strong one." Nami stepped forward and said, "We are from East Blue, the Straw Hat Pirates." "My name is Crocus," the old man interrupted suddenly. Oh, Nami nodded subconsciously and asked, "Mr. Crocus, may I ask where this place is?" Upon hearing this, Crocus glared and said in a deep voice, before asking others, "Shouldn't you introduce yourselves first? Are pirates nowadays so impolite?" Nami's forehead formed a cross, and she clenched her fist. "We are from East Blue, the Straw Hat Pirates. I am the navigator, Nami. This is Twin Capes, and I am the lighthouse keeper here." Interrupted once again, Nami transformed into a shark's mouth. "Listen carefully to what others say, you old fart." Seemingly provoked by Nami's words, Crocus immediately put on a stern expression. Do you want to fight? Zoro immediately gripped his sword handle. Crocus remained silent for a while and then said, please speak. Everyone. Please speak without making such a scary expression. Everyone felt the urge to punch someone. Ha ha ha. Crocus. Luffy laughed. I am Monkey D. Luffy, I have heard of your name. Crocus finally shifted his gaze to Luffy, or more accurately, he saw the straw hat on his head. It brings back memories. His expression softened, revealing a hint of nostalgia. Memories? Well, your feeling is correct. This straw hat belongs to Roger. Luffy chuckled. Crocus was stunned. Roger gave the hat to Shanks, and Shanks gave it to me. I also heard your name from Shanks. You were the ship doctor of the Pirate King, the one who saved his life at the end. Without you, Roger wouldn't have made it to the final island. The Straw Hat crew was shocked. Was this infuriating old man really a member of the Pirate King's crew? Wait, Luffy. Zoro suddenly realized something. Why do you still know people here in the Grand Line? Such a comment, but it's too early, there's more to come. Don't you understand what it means to be the king of backgrounds? Luffy smiled and said, Crocus, can you give us a log pose? Upon hearing this, Crocus also smiled. Captain Roger, after all these years, is the person you've been waiting for him? Thinking in his heart, he stood up and walked towards the lighthouse. Luffy, right? Come with me, I'm happy today. I'll treat you to a drink, and I'll give you what you want. Everyone looked at Luffy one after another, unable to help but sigh in their hearts. It's great to have acquaintances. Luffy laughed and said, let's go. Suddenly, he made a soft sound and turned to look at the coast. A small boat approached the Sunny in a sneaky manner, and two figures agilely climbed onto the deck. It seems luck is on our side, Mr. 9. The person speaking in a low voice was a young and beautiful woman. She tied her long, aqua blue hair into a ponytail and had the demeanor of a bad girl. You're right, Miss Wednesday. We've been waiting for 3 days and haven't seen that big whale surface. Luckily, a group of pirates came. There must be plenty of food on this luxurious ship. If we don't take some back, the people at Whiskey Peak will starve to death. The person responding was a man dressed in green clothes and wearing a crown. The two glanced at each other and quickly sneaked into the cabin. The hungry duo immediately began searching for food. Mr. 9 went straight to the refrigerator. Miss Wednesday, on the other hand, discovered an exquisite box. The box was quietly placed on the sofa in the lounge. She immediately walked over and opened it, finding 2 fruits inside. They looked like small apples. Originally there should have been 6 because the box had 6 slots. The packaging is so exquisite, it must be delicious. Her stomach growled, and her mouth started salivating. She picked up the 2 fruits and stuffed them into her mouth. The taste was extremely sweet, the most exquisite fruit she had ever eaten. Suddenly, she widened her eyes, covered her throat, and a look of disbelief flashed in her eyes. What's wrong, Miss Wednesday? Mr. 9 was startled and came out of the kitchen to the lounge. Just as he came out, he was horrified to find a man wearing a straw hat standing at the doorway. He. So you ate it, you actually ate the forbidden fruit. Luffy looked at Princess Vivi, and couldn't help but laugh mischievously. This can't be settled with money. Nami, who appeared shortly after, also discovered that her 2 Rokushiki fruits had been stolen and eaten. Her heart instantly turned cold. Ah. She let out a scream and quickly approached Vivi, grabbing her collar in anger. Spit it out, that was a gift from Luffy to me. As she spoke, she shook Vivi back and forth. I'm sorry. Vivi, who was being shaken, was both digesting the power of the fruit and continuously apologizing in her mouth. What's wrong, Nami? Nico Robin returned to the Sunny-go and, looking at her sister's appearance, couldn't help but say, did a thief come in? Nami threw herself into Nico Robin's arms. Originally, I wanted to save it for you, Nico Robin, but it was stolen. On one hand, it was a gift from Luffy, something she cherished. On the other hand, she had already mastered the Rokushiki with just 4 out of the 6 fruits and planned to share the remaining 2 with her sister. But before she had the chance, someone else ate them. Just thinking about this made her very angry. Seeing more and more people returning, Mr. 9 became nervous. Miss Wednesday, what are you still doing here? Get ready to fight. HMPH, it's your bad luck to encounter us, pirates. He pulled out a baseball bat from behind and launched an attack towards Luffy. Luffy lacked interest in dodging or defending and watched as it was about to hit him. Protective barrier. A transparent barrier unfolded in front of Luffy, and Mr. Nine's head collided with it, causing himself to bleed and his nose to collapse. Bartolomeo, with his middle finger and index finger crossed, walked in with an angry expression. Who do you think you are, daring to attack Lord Luffy? You're really asking for trouble. Barrier sandwich. As soon as he finished speaking, a square barrier appeared behind Mr. Nine. The two barriers sandwiched Mr. Nine forcefully, and with a loud bang, he let out a scream, his whole body being squeezed in the center, almost flattening his face. Mr. Nine. Vivi was shocked. Are they ability users? Zoro's face turned cold. Luffy, how should we deal with them? Throw them into the sea as fish food? Johnny's expression was unfriendly. Zoro, we're letting them off too easily. They dared to steal Nami's things. They should be tied to a rock and sunk to the bottom of the sea. Hearing these terrifying remarks, Vivi was scared and trembling. Luffy laughed. Tie them up. These two are agents of the Baroque Works. Baroque Works? Zoro frowned. He seemed to have heard of this organization before and was even invited by them. I'll do it. Nami took matters into her own hands and slowly approached Vivi. She also used her villainous tone and revealed a terrifying smile. Don't even think about resisting, little girl. You ate two of them, so you should understand, right? Techniques like the Rokushiki are part of it. Vivi swallowed her saliva, looking like a little white rabbit being stared at by an eagle, her face filled with despair. Because she had eaten them, she understood that resistance was meaningless. I'll compensate you with money, she weakly said. Then, she was tightly bound. The other Mr. Nine had already been knocked out, and after Bartolomeo deactivated his ability, he also tied him up like a dumpling. I'll leave them to you. I'm going to check on Kaya's condition. Luffy said a word and then turned and left. The crowd carried Mr. Nine out of the sunny, while Nami stayed behind. She sat on the sofa, assuming a bad woman's posture. Now, it's interrogation time, little girl. Tell me, what's your name? Who sent you here? What is this Baroque Works that Luffy mentioned just now? On the other side, the merry-go. Johnny poured a bucket of cold water, waking up Mr. Nine. Bartolomeo grinned, revealing a row of sharp teeth. Tell me, obediently tell us your purpose, don't think about making up stories. You two will be interrogated separately, understand? Hee hee hee. At the Twin Capes, next to the lighthouse, there was a small house. Seeing Luffy return, Kaya immediately asked with concern, What happened, Mr. Luffy? Two thieves came, but they have been subdued, no need to worry. Luffy turned to the pirate doctor and asked, Crocus, how is her condition? It's a congenital genetic disease, if you want to treat it. Crocus shook his head, took out a piece of paper, wrote a few words, and handed it to Luffy, saying, I don't have the necessary medicinal materials here, at most I have some painkillers. You should go to Drum Island and find an old witch, I know her. Give her this note, she will help. Luffy took the note. Kaya nervously held her skirt and whispered, Will it be very troublesome? Miss Kaya, don't worry, this is the Pirate King's doctor. Since he said so, it will definitely be cured. Sanji comforted her. Crocus smiled and said, Little girl, don't be nervous. Your illness is not incurable. You will be cured when you go to Drum Island. The premise is, your captain chooses which route. Which route? Usopp looked puzzled. It's different from the East Blue where you came from. The islands in the Grand Line have magnetic properties. To navigate here, you need to rely on log poses. While explaining, Crocus stood up and took out 2 log poses from the drawer. In this sea area, past sailing experience is completely useless. The only thing you can trust is this. He placed the 2 log poses on the table. One is a permanent pose pointing to Whiskey Peak, and Drum Island is on this route. The other is a log pose that hasn't stored any magnetic force yet. You can decide which route to take yourself. The range of the lighthouse is large, different areas record different routes, a total of 7. Straw Hat Luffy, I can only give you one of them. The others looked at Luffy one after another, waiting for the captain's decision. Luffy didn't hesitate, he picked up the permanent log pose and smiled. There's no need to ask about this, thanks, Crocus. Are you interested in joining my crew? Ha ha ha, I'm already old, adventures belong to you young people, and besides, there's something I can't rest assured about here. Crocus couldn't help but laugh. Did they really choose this route? Is it for the sake of curing this little girl, or is it fate's arrangement? Ooh. Suddenly, a low and long sound rang out, vibrating the eardrums. What is this sound? Sanji's face changed slightly, some kind of beast. Crocus also tensed up and without saying a word, rushed out. It's the cry of an island whale, a very big whale. Luffy said a word and followed him out. Wow, it's huge. As everyone followed Luffy out of the lighthouse cottage, the first thing they saw was an incredibly massive whale. Only the head of the whale emerged from the water, but even so, it was comparable to a small mountain. Sanji exclaimed in astonishment, why is its head covered in scars? It's called a Laboon. It wants to smash the red line, Crocus said with a serious expression, slowly recounting a story from many years ago. After hearing the story, everyone sighed in admiration. Laboon was truly a whale with deep emotions. Smash the red line to find its former companions? But it's been so many years, that pirate crew, they're probably. That was over 50 years ago, Usopp said with a sad expression, feeling empathy for the whale. Human lifespans are short, and over 50 years, they would have long since died. I think so too, that's why every time it tries to collide with the red line, I have to inject it with a sedative, otherwise it would die sooner or later. Saying that, Crocus quickly ran over and leapt onto the whale's head. It's the Rumbar pirates, right? After pretending to think for a moment, Luffy walked to the shore and said to Laboon, they're still alive. Roar. Laboon's roar suddenly stopped, and its huge eyes shifted slightly downward, looking at the tiny humans. Do you know the Rumbar pirates? Crocus, who was about to enter Laboon's body to administer the injection, turned around in astonishment. My grandfather is Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp of the Marine Headquarters. I've seen some classified marine intelligence. Luffy nodded and once again revealed his background. Over 50 years ago, Laboon was still a young whale, small in size. It liked the Rumbar pirates, a group of musicians, so it followed them to the Grand Line. But the Grand Line was too dangerous, so the members of the Rumbar pirates made a promise with Laboon. They would meet again after circumnavigating the world. The result was naturally a tragedy. The captain of the Rumbar pirates fell seriously ill during the voyage. After he died, the Rumbar pirates fought against another group of pirates. In the end, they were wiped out, everyone died. Only one person named Brook, who had eaten the Yomi Yomi no Mi fruit before his death, had his soul return from the afterlife and lived a second life. And because his body had already decayed and turned into a skeleton, Brook became a living skeleton. He no longer had the limitations of lifespan and, in a sense, was a form of immortality. Now, this skeleton-like person was wandering in the Florian Triangle like a ghost. Roar. After listening, Laboon let out another piercing roar. Luffy couldn't help but pause, his expression becoming subtle. Are you saying, you want to follow me and find him? Something was off with this script. Hey, Luffy, how can you understand what the whale is saying? Usopp couldn't help but comment. It's not that I understand, I just roughly understand the meaning behind its roars. Luffy shook his head. He hadn't awakened the ability to hear the voice of all things yet, but he could somehow sense what Laboon was trying to convey. If only Chopper were here, he could translate it accurately. Roar! Laboon roared again, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Luffy smiled, aren't you afraid I'll deceive you? Upon hearing this, Laboon's expression immediately turned fierce. Of course it's true, I'm not deceiving you. Teasing the giant whale for a moment, Luffy pondered for a moment before nodding and saying, alright, I'll take you to find him. From today onwards, you are a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. If you agree, just nod your head. Laboon immediately started shaking its head, nodding back and forth. Crocus, who was on top of its head, was shocked and had to grab onto something to avoid being shaken off. The rest of the crew also showed expressions of disbelief. Wait a minute, Luffy. Usopp danced around, describing the size of the whale. How can we possibly sail with such a huge whale? Usopp makes a good point, Luffy. Have you thought about how much food it will need every day? Sanji showed a look of despair. I'm the one who cooks. Ha ha ha, it doesn't matter. It can find its own food. Regular sea kings are no match for it. Luffy laughed. Of course, the most important thing is to invite crew member Laboon, a qualified island whale, reward 200 adventure coins. Even the system approves. Adventure coins for free, can't let them go to waste. Thinking of this, Luffy looked up at Laboon. When we go ashore, you stay in the nearby waters. When we sail, you follow underwater. If we encounter shallow waters, you have to go around. If you get hungry, you have to find your own food. Do you understand? Very troublesome. Laboon is over 400 meters long and over 100 meters tall. Not all seas have depths of several thousand or tens of thousands of meters. Shallow waters may only be 100 or 200 meters. But Laboon still nodded. Although it couldn't understand, the others could feel Laboon's firm determination. I understand, then come along. Luffy grinned and turned to his companions. Do any of you have any objections? Luffy, since you've said it like that, there's nothing else we can do. Usopp helplessly rubbed his forehead. Kaya chuckled, remembering how Mr. Luffy had tirelessly brought her to the Grand Line for medical treatment. No one had any objections. Zoro's expression was serious. You're the captain, your decision doesn't need our input, as long as you've thought it through. Truly reliable captain. Luffy smiled slightly and immediately had Usopp go to the ship to get a paintbrush and paint. He personally drew a huge Straw Hat Pirate's flag on Laboon's head, declaring it as a member of the Straw Hat crew. After everything was done, goodbye, Crocus, we're setting sail. Don't let Laboon die, Luffy. Why don't you come along? Ha ha ha, I'm already old. If you need a doctor, go to Drum Island. On the shore, Crocus waved continuously, watching as the two ships and the whale gradually drifted away. Monkey D. Luffy, just like Roger, one of the D clan. The Sunny set sail from Cape Gemini, bidding farewell to Crocus, and slowly headed towards the first stop on the Grand Line, Whiskey Peak. Luffy walked into the activity room and immediately saw Nami interrogating Vivi. Facing the fierce Nami, Vivi weakly confessed everything, even revealing her true identity. So you're a princess? The princess of Alabasta. Nami's expression gradually softened, and a symbol of belly appeared in her eyes. The devil fruit was eaten, there was no way to turn back time, so now they had to limit the damage. A princess was a very suitable target for extortion and compensation. When Vivi saw Luffy, she became even more afraid and quickly said, I will compensate. I was just too hungry and wanted to find something to eat. I didn't know it was something magical, like a devil fruit. Nami immediately put on a friendly smile and said, So, Princess Vivi, how much money are you willing to compensate? 50,000 belly, what do you think? Vivi's voice became smaller and smaller, almost inaudible. 50,000? Nami grabbed Vivi's collar again, transforming into a shark's mouth, shaking her back and forth. Are you an idiot? If you could buy something like that for 50,000, I would want to buy a whole box. I'm sorry, that's all my savings. Vivi felt like crying but had no tears, her head was hurting from being shaken. I was the idiot who had a moment of hope for you just now. If you were rich, would you come here to steal food because you were hungry? Yes. Vivi's stomach cooperated and made a growling sound. The young girl's face turned red. Luffy watched the two girls arguing and couldn't help but laugh. He sat down next to Nami and asked, which two techniques did you master? Moonwalk and finger pistol. Vivi bit her lip. She knew that the person in front of her was the real decision-maker, the captain. Please don't throw me into the sea to feed the fish. When I return to the kingdom, I will definitely compensate you enough. When you return to the kingdom, you're probably going to be taken out by Baroque works halfway. Luffy thought to himself and smiled. The Nefertari family of Alabasta. Your country is currently in rebellion, in chaos. I'm afraid there won't be much money for compensation. Besides, the 6 powers fruit is something that money can't buy. How should we deal with her, Luffy? Nami sighed helplessly. Selling the princess as a slave should fetch a good price, Luffy smirked. That's a good idea, as expected of Luffy. Nami's eyes lit up, full of agreement. The two of them sang in harmony, scaring Vivi pale. I'm sorry. Please, not that. I'm willing to do anything, please spare me. The fate of being sold as a slave was self-evident for a princess. Ha ha ha. Luffy couldn't help but laugh. It was amusing to scare the little girl. Nami glared at him and sighed. I was just teasing you. We're not those low-level pirates who do such boring things. Thank you. Vivi immediately breathed a sigh of relief. But you still have to compensate. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep at night. I understand, I will find a way. Vivi nodded vigorously, afraid that these two bad men and bad women would change their minds. Luffy shook his head and said, the black market price for a devil fruit is at least 100 million belly, and the 6 powers fruit is even rarer and has no side effects. The price is only high, not low. 100 million. Vivi's heart almost stopped beating. If it was the old Alabasta, it wouldn't be a problem to come up with that money, but now. As far as I know, Alabasta is now being targeted by Crocodile. It won't be long before you're not a princess anymore, but a princess of a fallen kingdom, with no money for compensation. Hearing this suddenly, Vivi trembled and stared at him in disbelief. How? How do you know? Who are you? I am Monkey D. Luffy, my grandfather is Monkey D. Garp, Vice Admiral of the Naval Headquarters. The grandson of a marine hero? Vivi's mouth dropped open, realizing that this identity might not be lower than that of a princess. In fact, in a certain sense, it might even be higher. That's the core high-ranking figure of the three great powers of the Grand Line, a prominent figure in the Marines. Crocodile? Nami asked in confusion. Just like the hawk-eyed guy we met before, he is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, nicknamed Sand Crocodile, Luffy explained. Vivi stared at Luffy in a daze, her little head in complete chaos. After a while, she became excited. What does this mean? Do you know what Crocodile did in Alabasta? Did you find out from the Marines? If that's the case, why didn't the Marines take action? Ah, I've discovered a blind spot, you're quite clever. Luffy chuckled lightly. Crocodile is a pirate. A pirate who went to Alabasta and became a hero. If you say he turned over a new leaf and started a new life, even the 5 elders would probably laugh their heads off. He must be planning something, but considering that he is a Shicibukai, a lapdog of the government, they just can't be bothered. I know you're anxious, but don't forget that you're currently my prisoner, Princess Vivi. Luffy raised his hand and explained to her the rules of how this world operates. After listening, Vivi muttered in a daze. No wonder when I reported to the Marines, I never received any feedback. No one came to take a look, no one cared about what was happening in Alabasta. They know, or rather, they can guess some of the situations, but they can't intervene, and they don't want to. After all, the Marines are said to be one of the 3 great powers of the Grand Line, but to put it bluntly, they are still dogs of the world government. Without the government's approval, the Marines can't move against the Shicibukai. Even if Vivi were to go to Sengoku and present all the evidence of what Crocodile did, there would be no results. Vivi, who was struck by this, had tears welling up in her eyes, falling down one by one. She bit her lip tightly, drawing blood. Alabasta. The rebellious army deceived by Crocodile, the suffering people. Do they have no hope? She clenched her fist, but there was only deep helplessness. At the age of 14, she abandoned her princess status and infiltrated Baroque works to investigate the mastermind behind the domestic turmoil. After 2 years, she finally learned a name. Behind everything, it was that Shicibukai, Sir Crocodile. She finally saw a glimmer of hope. As long as she could obtain solid evidence and submit it to the Marines, everything that Alabasta had suffered would pass, the suffering would end, and the country would welcome hope. However, now someone was telling her, "You're too naive." Haha. Luffy, don't bully her, Nami sighed deeply, looking at the pitiful Vivi and feeling empathy. Luffy spread his hands. I'm just helping you vent, that's all. Whose side are you on, Nami? She gave him a disdainful look. Nami embraced Vivi, patting her head and comforting her with a smile. Don't cry. Although he's been scaring you all this time, when he says something like this, he actually wants to help you. Huh? Vivi was stunned, her tearful eyes looking at Nami, then at Luffy. Luffy propped his cheek with one hand and chuckled. Don't make it sound like I'm a good-for-nothing. It's just that Crocodile is a bit too arrogant. It's unreasonable. I have to teach him a lesson.